Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Industrial Committee's live webinar. I am one of your hosts. Hold on, I'm going to admit Thomas Costner. Thanks for joining us, Thomas, along with Frankie Valley and Blair Gilbert. Frankie and I hail from Las Vegas. Blair is on the East Coast. Frankie, will you give everybody like a 60-second elevator pitch of what you do and how you came to be on this committee?
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Frankie Valley, born and raised in Las Vegas, got my business degree and immediately came back to start working with my Aunt Pam at her boutique brokerage. And for the last couple, 5 or 6 years, we've been working together. She's been mentoring me. And in the last year or so, we formed a partnership. I've always been focusing on industrial, and my first deal happened to be industrial. It was a medical marijuana deal. And I primarily focus on small to medium-sized businesses, helping them expand nationwide via tenant representation, buyer rep, also work with industrial investors and developers, a little bit of everything on the industrial side, but pretty much on the leasing side has been my most experience.
I love that. And you forgot to mention that your very first deal was a house, and you decided you would never do that again. But your
Well,
first
yeah, you gave me 35 rental leads that I had to call and weed out first. And then I had a house, and then let's be accurate, you're right. And then I went to industrial.
and then you got a taste of that warehouse life and never went back.
Oh, there's nothing better to get you prepared for cold calls than residential rental leads. They don't want to hear from you. Didn't even mean to call. Nobody wants to talk about a rent. Oh my gosh, those were the worst. Never had it as negative feedback from a phone call ever in cold calls than that day.
I would say welcome home. And then Blair Gilbert, give us your 60-second elevator pitch and how you came to be on our committee.
Well, I am an SIOR industrial specialist, have been holding that designation since 2007
Whoop, whoop.
and deal primarily at this point with industrial sale leaseback properties. I've been able to put together a collection of some 7 family offices that I'm working with on various aspects of industrial. And that's what keeps me busy.
Love it. You're muted.
Awesome. And we're really appreciative to have you here. You were kind of voluntold to be on the committee with us. One of our chairpersons dropped off, and Blair's diligent enough to show up every meeting and fill that spot. So we're appreciative of you. I have 36 years experience in the industry. I've done everything from, I started in title and escrow, worked for a hard money lender where we ended up developing a lot of Las Vegas. I would say the population when I started with the developer in Las Vegas was maybe around 700,000. We're well over 2 million right now. So we've built a lot of infrastructure. It's been a lot of fun. Right now, we primarily focus on industrial real estate. I dabble a little bit still in development and resort. So the only reason why we tell you about ourselves is because, you know, we're here, we're practicing brokers, we're in the field, we're in the market, we're learning every single day. And this is just a place for us to collaborate, share insights and wisdom, share deals, and learn and grow from one another. So please don't ever hesitate to contact any of us if you're ever in a deal or a transaction, you need a little support, advice, or you just want a second set of eyes. That's literally what this committee is here for you, to support you. And with that being said, we're going to dive into today's topic, which is exploring highest and best use. We're kind of going to be all over the map as far as asset class is concerned, but here's the truth of the matter is that the only thing constant in life is change. And as communities ebb and grow and develop, you will notice that not only does the zoning change, does the master plan change, properties change. So sometimes when you're evaluating property, let's say you get a listing, There could be a structure on that property. Maybe there's not a structure on that property, but we want to like expand your thinking a little bit. So the next time you look at property, you're going to look at it completely differently after having been on this little workshop with us. We will by no means be able to make you an expert at highest and best use after this, but we're going to give you the best overview. We're going to give you some great takeaways. And even if it supports you in getting a couple extra deals done this year, which I think it can, then we've done our job. So with that being said, let me share screen. And we are going to go over, bear with me. All right, Frankie, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So I'll go into presentation mode. So highest and best use. An existing improvement should be renovated or retained so long as it continues to contribute to the total market value of the property or until the return from a new improvement would more than offset the cost of demolishing the existing building and constructing a new one. So pretty self-explanatory. Every time you look at a property, does that property, if there's an existing structure on it, does that property still serve the community? Like, for example, and we're going to be giving a lot of examples while we go through this slide deck. In Las Vegas, we've recently undergone a massive rewrite of what we call Title 30. Title 30 is our zoning. Frankie, can you give them a brief rundown on your interpretation of Title 30?
Yeah, definitely. So it's pretty much just the overall guideline for zoning here in Southern Nevada. We have multiple jurisdictions, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Enterprise, but they're all residing in with Clark County. So we actually just had a recent entire revamp of the Title 30. So every zoning terminology has changed. The type of zoning has changed. Like, it's an entirely new book. So what was industrial, light industrial before could now be limited industrial, and the requirements and guidelines could change for what could be developed on there or what could be used on there. So it's pretty much a guideline to tell you what land, what use the land has and what businesses can operate out of there and what type of businesses. Did we lose you? I don't see Pamela. Oh, there she is. And yep, that's pretty much my interpretation of Title 30. Did you catch that?
We did. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
And so we're going to be using vernacular. And that vernacular, the reason why I wanted you to go through that is because the vernacular might be completely accurate to your jurisdiction, your location, but I guarantee you that you have something similar. It just might be called something different, right? We also have master plan, right? So master plan is the city's vision for how they want the city built out. It usually starts urban. It starts in the middle of the city, if you will, and then it expands out from there. So you could look at a city's master plan and the city's vision for how they want that community to grow and develop could be completely different from the existing structures that are there, which simply leads to opportunity. I got to get my screen sharing back on. Sorry. We had a little hiccup.
All good. And I'll just add, the Title 30, the existing land use, and the master plan, sometimes they may or may not be in line with each other. What was previously industrial could still be industrial. It could be a different type, or it could totally switch to mobile home park, retail. It really just depends. It's something it's a property by property basis. You have to take a look at every single individual parcel and see what the situation is.
100%. And then to just dive into it, so maximizing property value and understanding highest and best use in industrial real estate, any real estate, It's there. When you start with the land, there's no boundaries, right? You have to start with an open slate of a mind, then you can decide. But we're specifically looking for additional opportunities in industrial real estate because that's what we love. So the objectives of today is to help you understand the principles of highest and best use in real estate, how to learn to analyze land and property for its optimal use, explore legal, physical, financial, and productivity aspects of each property use, and calculate potential returns on different property use scenarios. So with that being said, what are our key activities? Frankie or Blair, what does it say? Someone else read the middle. I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
Thank you, Matters Factory. Pedro, how can I
Please
help
mute
you?
yourself if you're not speaking. I try to make a note.
Oh,
In
give me-
commercial real estate, the highest and best use, HBU, all these acronyms, right? You gotta love it, is the most profitable, legal, and feasible way to use a property. Understanding HBU is crucial for property valuation and can help maximize the property's value for investors and owners. It can also benefit the community by aligning with its development goals. Four main food groups of that are legally permissible, physically possible, maximally productive, and financially feasible.
So with that, let's dive into this. And I do want you guys to like participate and unmute yourself here. So legally permissible. If we start with the land, regardless of whether there's a structure on it or not, and we're looking at what is legally permissible, where do we go? How do we figure out, what do we do to find out what is legally permissible on land or property? And what does that mean? Anyone got any guesses? Let's share with one another how we do it. Best practices.
Check Title 30 or call your zoning department, your local zoning department.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, so often we think that we don't leverage our resources, and your local zoning department will be a great resource for you. In fact, we've even taken field trips down to zoning departments. And in the greater Las Vegas Valley, you guys might not know this. However, we have 3 different zoning entities. Because we are not only the city of Las Vegas, but we also do business in Henderson and North Las Vegas. North Las Vegas is its own separate city entity. So we're not only, trying to understand and investigating one governmental legality, it's 3, because our industrial sector does expand quite extensively through all 3 of those cities.
And Clark County, technically 4.
Correct.
You want to count that one, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, you could start just by calling your zoning department 100%. What else would factor into legal? Anyone else?
I don't know about other parts, but I can tell you that in Pennsylvania, you need to go to the local municipality because they all operate independently of each other. And you need to be very careful about the coding and the terminology. Light industrial can mean something totally different from municipality to municipality here. And
Would that be like a township?
It could be a township or it could be a city. It's the controlling municipality, Pam. Depends.
I love it. And I'm from a small town outside of Pittsburgh, 20 minutes south of Pittsburgh,
Right.
Center Township in Beaver County. And the truth of the matter is, guys, that you could drive through 5 townships in 5 minutes in some areas. And we have a lot of people on the Zoom, and that might be exactly the case in where you live. We're over here crying about having to deal with 3 or 4 different municipalities. You could be dealing with 20 based on where you conduct business. And Blair, that's a really good point. I'll add to that as far, because we're looking at legal. You've got overlays too, right? So you could have a property that's zoned industrial and your client manufactures cannabis. What type of legalities might you be looking at if that's the case for you? Any type of restrictions anyone can think of?
Might need a special use permit.
State
conditional
licenses.
use.
Location of how far or close it is to schools and residential areas.
Bingo. Awesome. So if you've got an industrial property that maybe has a church within 1,000 feet or whatever the restriction is in your jurisdiction, even though it's a warehouse and even though your client could operate in it very effectively based on its physical location and the property attributes, that is not the highest and best use for that property at that point in time because of the restriction of having a church facility too close to it. So it would not get approved. And everyone's restrictions are different. So you have to reach out to your municipality. Physically possible. Let's talk about that one a little bit. What does physically possible mean?
It means the building you're putting on the land is going to fit. Just kidding. Own 100,000 square feet on half an acre. I'm just
Not gonna work.
kidding. That's
Yeah,
part.
quite honestly, that. I mean, what's the topography of the property? If you are on some type of steep hill or incline, you could be in a flood zone. There's all different kinds of things. You could have a seismic quake line that runs through the property that's going to, so for instance, we said we were going to talk about a lot of examples. We do deal in resort property. So we had the instance of taking a run at 130 acres on Las Vegas Boulevard, very close to the airport. When we got into due diligence, we found out that there was a seismic line that ran through that property. Therefore, there were restrictions on how far we could build around that seismic line. And it was, 20 feet away from it on one side, 40 feet away from it on the other. And because it ran right through the 130 acres, it made the resort look very different. It made the resort not physically possible because we would have to detach the actual resort. So we even played around with, can we put the hotel over here and the amenities over here, the pool, the shopping, the parking, and all of that great stuff. So at the end of the day, that was a real case scenario for physically possible. Does this facility, building, structure, is it physically possible to develop this on the land? Sometimes you don't know until you get into due diligence.
And another one I think that can fall into physically possible would be the timing. So these permits and zoning changes and all those things obviously aren't just happening overnight. They take some time, money, some handshakes, some greasing of the wheels, but also the construction timeline, right? So if your projection of this project, if this land is X amount and you're going to develop it into this amount of whatever, it's going to produce this amount of money, you're going to sell it for X, right? But if you have 6 months to do that, then it's not physically possible, right? You need 6 months to get the special use permit. Timeline to construction, 8 to 12 months, whatever it may be. I'm sure that varies, but just wanted to point that out as well.
I love it. You talked a little bit about financially feasible, and we're going to get into that a little bit deeper in the example that we're going to show you. And then maximally productive. Let's talk about that one for just a little bit. What does that mean? Maximally productive when I'm looking at a piece of property.
Oh, anybody else want to answer? Sorry, I almost just blurted it out. Going once. Anything at all.
Maybe this
being
is
able being able to use the property to its best use. So like having enough parking, a wide enough turn radius for trucks to come through. Do you have dock high? Do you have grade level? Things like that.
I love that. That's kind of
Potentially,
like
yeah.
that's kind of like a thought process that I wouldn't have come at it with, but yeah, I agree with that. Is it maximally productive? Because does it allow enough land to build the structure that we want and allow for enough parking and turn radius? Love that.
For sure. And I mean, my brain was going the exact opposite, right? So maximally productive, you want to get as much amount of rentable or leasable square footage as possible on that parcel. So the least amount of landscaping, the least amount of parking as possible. So you have the more rentable square foot. So that's going to maximize the income, maximize the sale price, all of it. But of course, you can't be without the guidelines. If you have not enough parking, not enough landscaping, you want to be in the minimums, but.
Correct. And then I'm going to go in a complete opposite direction. I think everything in one of these answers are correct. Maximally productive in the eyes of the city.
Come here.
Right. So what does the city want to see there? Erica, would you be able to mute yourself? Thank you. Maximally productive in the eyes of the city. So we're going to give you another example. Our industrial sector used to be just west of Las Vegas Boulevard for good reason, right? So we had a lot of manufacturers, a lot of, dry cleaners, a lot of frozen food companies, distributors, all right off just west of Las Vegas Boulevard because they served our hotel industry. So it made sense for them to be right there. Well, as Las Vegas Boulevard grows and expands, the city has decided to change the master plan of a lot of those properties around there that used to be zoned for industrial. So we have about 70 acres right now, just west of Las Vegas Boulevard, nestled there on Tropicana, that is an industrial and office building mecca. 70 acres jam-packed in there. It's all very old product. It's been around for a really long time. Well, all that property has now been rezoned resort, H1, H2 hotel industry. So it's if you're listing a property in there, because you have a lot of different property owners, if you're listing a property in there, it's your job to understand that property's highest and best use. And the biggest mistake that you could make is go in and try to attempt to resell that property for its current zoning, correct? You would never, I would gather without even doing any investigation that the property could be much more valuable as a hotel redevelopment or some type of entertainment redevelopment, as it's nestled in that 70 acres. And we know that that's the city's new vision. Unfortunately, we do have some brokers in there that are listing properties and they're listing them below their current potential market value because they haven't done the research necessary and the investigation to create what they could fathom would be the new development. Did I put?
And I was just going to add to your point. I'm not sure if you were going to tell the story right now, but you're kind of like frozen.
You were frozen for a second, but you're good.
Oh, sorry. I was going to add to that. And you probably were going to go tell the story, but a real life example, right? We saw an agent who just didn't know what she had. She listed a property based off of what the previous zoning value would have put it at. And a savvy, more intelligible agent literally purchased it and sold it for $100,000 profit to another developer the next day based off of the new zoning. So it's not like we're not just talking, it's actually happening in our market and we're seeing it. So
yeah, and that's a really interesting story. That was an EXP Realty agent. The listing was actually, it was commercial potential property because when the property was zoned rural estates, which for us is 2 units per acre, it was zoned rural estates eons ago. And since then, the road that it sits on went from, a small 2-lane road to what we call an actual section line. So that means, stoplights, 4 lanes, the whole shebang. It's a major feeder road now. So in her analysis, she valued the property based on its current zoning, which is rural estates. She effectively listed the property for $100,000 because it was a very small piece of land for $100,000 for its current zoning. And a savvy EXP agent saw that listing in the MLS, offered her full price, all cash, $100,000. She thought that she was, a winner. She felt like she did her job. and he closed the deal in 2 days and
Joe,
resold
please mute.
the property for $200,000 just by understanding its zoning and potential. Real life
Again.
story. I just muted him.
Okay, thank goodness.
There we go. So can't stress enough what is maximally possible, right? Because that's what we're talking about. So we want to dive into that a little bit deeper. So everything starts with the land, regardless of what's on it. And I've said it 10 times, and I'm probably going to say it another 10 times before this Zoom is over. Everything starts with the land. Forget about what's built on it. Make sure that the structure that's on it is currently the highest and best use by serving the community and maximizing potential gain for the owner and the investor. So land, location, size, shape, topography, surroundings. You want to make sure that your possible development, redevelopment, is going to fit the surrounding area, right? We talked about legally permissible, zoning laws, master plan, land use plan, deed restrictions, CCNRs. How many of you might read CCNRs or see CCNRs on here and think we're crazy for putting it on there? Anyone? I thought we'd have at least one. So real life example. We currently represent Tunnel to Towers in a purchase of 5 acres here in Las Vegas near the VA hospital. If you don't know who Tunnel to Towers is, they're one of my favorite nonprofit organizations. They were born out of the 9/11 tragedy. 2 brothers sitting around a dining room table. Their brother was a fireman. He saved, it's documented, he saved over 100 people before he perished in that event. And so they sat around their dining room table and they decided to put together a nonprofit to serve first responders. They've since then expanded to veterans. So they build veteran housing all over the nation. So if any of you out there happen to know of any properties that would be suitable near VA hospitals in your areas, please reach out and let me know. We can get you some money and make that deal happen. So we represent them in 5 acres here. The issue with the 5 acres, and it's not an issue, however, it's in a commercial subdivision. So because they're secular and because we're getting this property rezoned, we want to de-annex from that commercial subdivision. Okay. There's no reason for them to have to be subject to pay CAMs or any type of fees or dues to enjoy common elements in a commercial subdivision that they're not going to be utilizing. So CCNRs are actually a very real thing on commercial property. And it's not impossible to actually be de-annexed if your property value then changes to something that would be different from the original intention. So let me get back to my thing. So CCNRs, physically possible, infrastructure, accessibility. What do we mean by accessibility? You know, are people going to, is the traffic going to be able to get to and from the property? Environmental conditions, visibility. If you have a very highly visible property, that could lend itself to certain highest and best use immediately, right? If you have a highly visible property, there might be some types of infrastructure you would not want to put on that property. And physical conformity. Does it conform with the neighborhood, the vibe, the city's master plan, so on and so forth? Existing structure. Do the improvements still add value? At one time, they probably did, but do they still add value? Demo potential, renovation potential, timing. Timing is everything, right? So not only do you need to understand the highest and best use of the property and the land, understand timing. If you're looking to build warehouse and industrial, to lease it up and to sell it, you need to understand how much is already in inventory being built to be delivered and when it's going to be delivered. Is your community going to be oversaturated, undersaturated? Are you still at a low vacancy rate? Timing is everything. The success or the failure of a project. And market demand. Talking a little bit about that as well. And then the most important is financially feasible, right? your cost versus income analysis, demo cost, acquisition cost, construction costs, revenue and sales assumptions. So specifically, if you're looking to redevelop for investment purposes, you have to be able to predict and assume what your sale assumptions are going to be. Any questions on that before we move on over?
Come on, we got to at least have one.
They're so shy.
This is good stuff.
I
Hey,
love it.
Charles. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Now people always tell me, how do we value the land, and it's like all the stuff that you have. And to me, it's kind of simple. Like you said, you just find out what the best thing you could put on there, figure out how much it's going to cost to build, throw on a 30% developer profit on it. And then whatever that cost is and leftovers, what the land is worth, right?
100%.
And it might be 50 grand. It might be you have to pay me to build it, or it might be $1 million.
Yeah, and not only that, find out what your city's willing to do too. We worked with Frankie helped me. We worked with Las Vegas in redeveloping downtown. They wanted to expand their medical district. There's a running joke for years in Las Vegas. Where do you go if you get sick? The airport.
Yeah.
Our health industry lagged, so to speak. I mean, we are Las Vegas, so we spend a lot of time and attention on entertainment. However, it was a huge desire to bring in better health and medical. So they wanted to redevelop downtown. And what they did was the city will go in often. This is not just in Las Vegas. The city will go in and they will start purchasing properties and demoing them and holding them to fit their vision. And they will sell for a song to the right developer. So we worked with a lot of developers in the medical district, whether they were building medical office, whether they were building retail to support the medical district, whatever it was. We worked hand in hand. And when the developer came in and they understood the city's master plan and their vision, the city would all but give them the land. So if you can pinpoint those types of deals for developers in your area, you could definitely be a hero. In fact, we're working with West Wendover right now in Northern Nevada. They're doing the same exact thing. And so their first 30 acres is going to be all retail on Main Street. And then we're going to expand and we're going to have some dedicated area for industrial beyond Main Street, big box, industrial. So it's a long-term play working with the city of West Wendover. And there will be big opportunities for industrial developers and brokers to go in probably about 1 year to identify properties and help build this community.
And I just wanted to add before we moved on, so similar to like opportunity zones, right? I'm sure we all know about the federal program, the opportunity zones. You guys, I would encourage you all, I'm sure the seasoned people already have, but go make relationships with these people. Understand what incentives there are to bring in out-of-state companies to develop on these projects that Pam was talking about. Tax incentives, development incentives. There could be some, there could be none. It's constantly changing. I know here in Vegas, a lot of people take advantage of it. They don't offer too much. It's a very niched thing here, but I have a feeling throughout the United States, there's certain cities that offer crazy incentives. So you just want to know that if it's available to you, you don't want to not take advantage. So
absolutely.
And
okay.
Last thing, sorry, and for the zoning and the permits, always take your information from the source, right? If you're going to go look up the code, I always say, get it from your zoning department, have him tell you what the code is, what the plan is, what the permit is. That way, when you tell your client, you're never overstepping or liable for that information.
100%. Okay, so now we're going to move on, and I'm going to give you a real life example from an appraiser's viewpoint. God bless the appraiser. I am just not that analytical, so I don't know if I'd ever have fun being an appraiser. I'm more on the creative side of the development, but they get down and dirty with highest and best use. And guys, I'm just going to tell you this. we get calls from appraisers all the time. They want to call us on our listings, on our sales, on our deals, because you guys know as well as we do that a lot of times the numbers don't tell the whole story. So they're going to call you and they're going to ask you about transactions that you've worked on. And it's really helpful them to understand values if they understand a little bit of the story. So take those phone calls from appraisers. I know they're kind of, time consuming, but it not only supports them, it supports you in getting the correct information out there, getting the correct valuation out there.
It's not a
And then
listing call, but it's not a listing call, but it still helps the industry. So please take them.
it does help the industry, and it doesn't hurt to develop good relationships with appraisers because there might be a transaction you need one on.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say. So I recently hosted a workshop for our Southern Nevada CCIM. We brought in Petra Latch, who is just a rock star in our city and our industry. Nobody knows Las Vegas and property values better than she does. So we had her kind of like deliver a highest and best use, very intensive workshop for all of our CCIM members here in Las Vegas. We're not going to go over the whole thing. I just want to give you a little, we want to give you a little snippet of what she took us through. So highest and best use definition, the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, 2022, is a publication of the Appraisal Institute, and it defines the highest and best use as the reasonably probable use of a property that results in the highest value. She even highlighted, made red, highest value. The 4 criteria that the highest and best use must meet are legal permissibility, physical possibility, financial feasibility, and maximum productivity. We've gone through all of that. So we've also gone through a little bit of this. What's legally permissible? She gets really, really entailed. And like we said at the beginning of this Zoom, we want to give you an overview. We want to just like expand your thinking. By no means are you going to be an expert at this if this is your first time ever looking at property this way. But the goal is to get you thinking a little differently. Physically possible, even down to soil conditions, access, frontage, visibility. Financially feasible, economics. You want to look at macro and microeconomics, right? One of my favorite lines is that Las Vegas is its own economic hub. We do follow market trends. However, we're just a little bit of a different beast. So if I made business decisions for my clients based on what's going on in macroeconomics, I'd be missing the boat again and again and again. Maximally productive. What results in the highest return on the land? We want to make our investors money, we want to build the city so it serves the community in the best fashion possible. So you can look at the highest and best use of the property as improved, right? So what's the existing improvement on the property? You're going to run 4 tests. They're connected, but they're distinct. We've already talked about those ad nauseum. Then you conclude, right? Here's the key, and I love this. Who's your most probable buyer? Isn't that at the end of the day, it's our job to put buyers and sellers together. It's our job to determine highest and best use. If you're representing a seller, you're on the listing side, maybe redevelopment is the highest and best use for that property. Well, now you got to determine who your most probable buyer is, because we're all going to start making phone calls to those developers. Because the job doesn't end by listing a property and waiting for something to happen. We go out and find them and make it happen. So this is an example. This is the example that she gave us, and I love this example. So the property that she's evaluating is right here. This is about 4¼ acres of land. It's a beautiful ranch property that was constructed at a time when none of these houses were here. This is out in the northwest part of town. It was predominantly ranch property. You can see that right here you have a school. Right up here you have a park. And here we still have BLM land. That's owned by the Bureau of Land Management. And they're stingy. They're not letting go near enough land for us. So we're getting a little bit of landlocked, but that's neither here nor there. That's the Bureau of Land Management. So you can tell, like, first of all, at first sight, does this property conform with the neighborhood? Anyone? Because that's a question. Am I here? Frankie's not here, so my response guy is gone.
I'm here. I just didn't want to be taken over again.
I know. So, I mean, obviously it's like which one of these things is not like the other, going back to my childhood. It's not conforming at the time, right? Then you look at the current zoning, and then you look at the potential zoning or the possible zoning based on what's around it. Well,
Oh,
the current zoning is low density. However, this is common sense, guys. Based on looking at this aerial, do you think you'd have a problem getting a higher density, getting the zoning changed to a higher density? So at the end of the day, this becomes a question of when the seller needs to sell this property because her horses are freaking out, they're no longer effective in the arena, there's too much traffic going on. It's just not the same area that they built this property in. Who is the buyer that we're looking for? Are we looking for an equestrian buyer? Or is the highest and best use of this property to sell to a developer, a home builder, who's going to come in and develop the property? And if that's the case, then we need to understand what its value is at redeveloping, right? What is its current value based on its existing structures? And what is its potential value based on what developers would be willing to pay to demo and build homes? And that's pretty evident just by looking at the aerial, right? Who is the most reasonable buyer for this property? So then you would go through and you would apply the 4 tests that we talk about. She goes through and this is part of the process in determining highest and best use. So she's gone through and she's done land sales, right? These are just vacant land residential sales. Then she says, what does the market say? And when I was telling you earlier, if appraisers call you, answer the phone, talk to them. She literally has gone and she's made all of these phone calls and she's taken notes about what builders are doing. Well, they're paying about 600,000 to 700,000 an acre. Somebody thinks that America Homes for Rent would pay that if they could build one of their for rent SFR projects. Some guy had an offer for 3.75 acres along Rainbow Boulevard, which is not far from here. Commercial zoned site, but 2 interested parties were residential developers who were offering approximately $1 million. So what's the need? What's the demand in the neighborhood? That lends itself to highest and best use. We need houses in that neighborhood. And these home developers were willing to pay $1 million an acre. Another note was that home builders offer on vacant land price for medium density of about 125,000 per lot. That means per door, right? So if I can get this property rezoned for medium density and, maybe that's 16 units an acre, 20 units an acre, whatever that is in your jurisdiction, they would pay 125,000 per door. So how many doors could they put on that property? Multiply it by 125,000. That's what that home builder would pay. So you get a lot of information, right? Residual analysis, what a home builder might consider. After she takes all that information, she's rounded it down to a value of 3.19 to 3,050,000. Then even price per acre, 660,000 to 630,000 per acre. So what do you conclude? Who do you market this to and how long is it going to take to sell? So here's what's here. We've got a ranch property. We have a 1,600 square foot house. We have an arena. We have barns, stalls, so on and so forth. So then she analyzes the actual property in its as-is condition. And she determines how long would it take to actually get another equestrian user to come in here and buy it. And regardless of the condition of the property, does another equestrian user want to come in and buy it? Do they want to bring their horses to this area that really no longer conforms to ranch property? So she investigates that like crazy. This is her equestrian comparable sales. You can see that she had to go back quite a while because we're not selling many equestrian properties in Las Vegas. So then she determines what the value would be based on that. And then she decides what the highest and best use is and who we're going to market the property to. So what would you guys conclude in this scenario? Anyone?
Warehouse on it.
What's that?
Put a warehouse on it. I'm just kidding.
It's an interesting process, right? It's a lot more than taking a property, running some comps based on the existing use, the existing structure, and putting it out there for sale. Our job, our job is a lot more intensive than that, and it's a lot more serious than that. So understanding highest and best use is not always evident on the surface level. It really deserves attention and investigation, and it doesn't happen overnight. We're listing a mobile home park. We've got the listing. Client is coming in from Hawaii. We're meeting her on Friday. Guys, I'm not in the mobile home park business, but guess what? The highest and best use of this property is not a mobile home park. It's industrial. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm listing an industrial piece of land that needs redeveloped. And residents in that area are going to be really happy when the new developer comes in and demos all of those mobile home parks. I mean, on a side note, my son is on the police department and he works that area. And so I sent him the address and I was like, hey, tell me about this. He was like, Mom, stay away from that. It's the worst one in Las Vegas. He's like, you don't want nothing. And he's like, and if you ever go there, call me because I'm going to take you with my gun. I'm going to protect you.
Awesome.
So we're not listing a mobile home park, guys. We're listing industrial potential, right? So when I got that referral, which came from another EXP agent in Hawaii, I could have said, hey, thank you so much. However, let me refer you to a mobile home specialist. That would have been a huge mistake, So we graciously thanked her and accepted the opportunity to work together, did our highest and best use scenario, which took a couple days, and quickly realized that that was better, highest and best use suited for industrial and redevelopment. So we're super excited about that. Let me go back to.
Just so you know, it's 52. And just if you still wanted to do the 360 Welpman, let me know.
I do, because I just think it's another great example.
For sure.
So recap, discoveries, key points, and takeaways. Frankie, go ahead and do Weltman right now. I'm going to stop sharing and give you privileges.
Okay.
Screen share multiple. You should be good.
Sweet.
Do you want to start with Gizmo?
Sure.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, I had it up ready to go. All right. So this is actually one of our family members' house. And as you can see right here is 2 acres that's zoned residential single family RS20, which is the ranch estates up to 2 DU per acre. Is that
Dwelling units.
dwelling unit? Right. Okay. They're changing up all the vernacular and acronyms. But as you can see, this parcel is being targeted by a developer in an assemblage with all of this. And the highest and best use, as they could see fit, would be multifamily. And this guy is what you would call a stubborn hermit crab, guy who never leaves. He just has no intention of moving. He's gotten millions of dollars offered on the property. He ain't going nowhere. So they're going to be building up on his fence, and it's going to be just like that. So as you can, before I move on, do you want to add anything to that?
No, the only thing that I would add is that, this is where due diligence comes into practice, right? So if when he decides to sell, if you're the agent that gets the phone call, hey, I want to sell my property. I don't sell residential property. Guys, determine what you got before you decide, right? Before you make a decision. Or if you're looking for a developer who wants to build multifamily, right? And they want to build in this area, it's your job to investigate what's possible, not what is, not what's there. That house has no business being there anymore because this area has developed so much in the past 15, 20 years. As soon as they put the M Casino in up on the boulevard, it's the first casino you see driving into Las Vegas. This area just went crazy. And then not only that, after COVID, this area exploded with industrial just to the east of that. Because we needed to get more of our warehousing and our industrial to the south end so that it was easier for drivers coming in from California. So this is a whole new different area now. So don't take things. So if you're searching for property for a multifamily developer, don't drive the neighborhood and discount this property because you see a house there. We're always thinking, what's possible? What's the highest and best use for this land? A house ain't it.
Exactly. And so here is what their proposed flyer looks like without their property. As you can see, this is the aerial view that we just showed you. This is the parcel, 360 Weltman, and then this is the proposed development that is going to be on his property line.
And then just to compound it, it's proposed, however, it's fully entitled. So when it becomes fully entitled, now you've set precedents for our uncle's property, right? So if they were going to issue entitlements for mid-rise multifamily, right adjacent to his property, if you're a developer, you got to be thinking you have a pretty good shot of getting that 2 acres rezoned for mid-rise multifamily, high density, retail on the bottom, mixed use. What does the value of that property become? 2 acres with 1 house on it, the value, versus 2 acres, mid-rise, multi-dense, or that's high density actually, right? High density, possibly even retail on the bottom. That 2 acres is worth so much more. But you don't know that if you haven't done the investigation and done the research and become aware of everything going on around that property. It's not always visible to the physical eye. You would never know that this property right next door already had entitlements. Those entitlements improved the value of my uncle's 2 acres next door drastically, right? And don't be that agent that Frankie was talking about that listed that sliver of land for $100,000, who in essence, it was really worth over $200,000 just because she didn't do her research. She didn't know, right? There are opportunities out there for us all around us. And often we get stuck in a box, right? We get stuck in thinking of what is. And the purpose of highest and best use is to spin that on its head and think, what's possible? What's possible? So
100%.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully this gave you a little idea, even if it gave you a couple little nuggets to, I hope that you never look at a property the same way again.
Right.
I hope that,
Look at how much work is done, guys, before they've even moved one parcel of dirt. I mean, they have all of the dimensions. Of course, you think it's obvious, but you don't know until you know, right? They have all of these renderings. Everything's built out and projected as far as the unit numbers, the building area. Look at all of these, the zoning verification letter, approved entitlements. They have the construction plans, utility schematics, floor plan, floodplain information, geotech report. I mean, all of it. And this is not even built yet, right? You need to have all these surveys and things already done and approved before you even get started. So just something to think about.
yeah, so we hope you guys maybe learned something new today. Frankie, can you stop screen sharing? We'll see if anybody has any questions before we finish.
Yes.
How y'all doing out there? Is everybody awake? How you doing, Germ?
Oh, there he is.
I'm
We're
gonna
good. Sorry.
Yeah. Did you walk away with anything? Any nuggets?
Yeah. Making sure that, well, one, that development that you guys just talked about, being able to build up a nice property line, and that's being the highest and best use for a single family house that was there is pretty amazing.
It's good
Being
stuff.
able to, yeah, being able to look at real estate a different way instead of just running comps.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I didn't realize how much paying attention to the land goes into factoring industrial. So that's actually very, very, very helpful information. Just understanding the survey and just from I guess, an appraisal view, it all factors into really being successful there.
I love
Awesome.
that. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, great presentation, Pam. Thank you so much. This is Derek in Tampa.
Yeah.
I would also say and recommend to any agents out there that attend the planning commission meetings and attend the board of county commissioner meetings. I swear I'm the only realtor that goes to those. I meet all the real estate attorneys at those meetings and have gotten to know the planning commission very, very well. So just another recommendation on the side there.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Derek, that's gold. Yes. Get
Yes,
yourself
thank you.
out there. Get yourself out there. Go meet the commissioners, shake hands. You again, leverage your resources. They're all right there for us to get to know and develop relationships with.
You don't want the first call to them to be sometime when you need something, right? You want to be already have a good relationship when you want to come to them for a favor or an entitlement.
100%. I've got them on speed dial.
I love that's such great information. Thank you for that, Derek.
So
All right,
I'm
guys.
gonna throw a spin into it.
Sorry?
As a slightly tenured industrial guy, I probably saw something that nobody else saw. And I saw an opportunity that didn't get mentioned. One of those illustrations showed an Amazon distribution center. And to me, that is mega dollars. Because there was vacant land across the street, highway, whatever, from that Amazon facility. And distribution is just unbelievable from a market standpoint. And I can assure you, I would be out there looking at that land across from Amazon, seeing what is available there for distribution centers.
Oh
Love
yes,
it.
that's actually the southeast southeast Henderson submarket, the hottest submarket in southern Nevada. That's actually where our Stack at Inspirada project is. It's probably a mile to the south of that. So great way to notice that on that retailer map.
And nothing out there is a secret. That was fun. All right, guys, we certainly appreciate you. In 2 weeks, we're going to be back at this, and we're going to be
Everybody?
delivering market stats, right? So show up with your deals, your questions, your concerns. Frankie's going to take a deep dive into CoStar and all the other tools and platforms that we have available to us. Oh, Charles has a hand up.
Oh, sorry. Shameless plug. Yeah, that, by the way, that was a great presentation. It was so detailed too. It wasn't just glossing over something. So I'm
Thank
sure
you.
everyone got a couple of nuggets out of that one. But you know, people don't realize how important that is, and to look at it from not just the broker side, which is always kind of the end, you know, what it's going to be worth at the end, and what am I going to sell for, but what it takes, and from either even on the lending side, because they have to look at everything, carrying costs and, you know, the time it takes to develop, and, you know, like you said, get the city to pay for an EIR report or something, or all that stuff is just important. But the lease comp is so important to everything, you know, because in the end, the property is only worth what someone is going to pay the rent for. And if it's sold as an investment or a user, you know, and talking to those appraisers, you know, I used to shy away from them. They're wasting my time, but no, you got to make friends, and they're the ones looking for this, you know, lease comps, and they have lease comps that are always, you know, so coveted. So that's great. And then shameless plug, industrial CRE class at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And yeah,
Make sure you guys join that. It's a great
Go
class.
to breakfast and get another cup of coffee, and then
There you
jump
go.
right back on with Charles.
in a couple hours. Thanks for letting me join.
Gold.
Yeah, it takes you through an entire transaction from start to finish. You definitely want to be in there if you haven't been in there yet.
And then next, in 2 weeks, we'll see you for market stats and analysis. Go kill it, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.